Smells like organs. Not organ. Smells like organs. I'm trying to figure out which duplex Liver King lives in here.
I feel like Batman.
I said don't let him in. Don't fucking let him in.
Looking jacked and
It's good
Look at
to
this
fucking
guy.
see you.
great to meet you.
I can't believe how long this took.
Hey, Liver Queen.
Oh, yeah.
I know you've already had raw liver before.
Oh, I have. Yes, I have.
And you
love
ever had raw testicle before?
Sounds good.
Bone marrow is taken right out of the animal. It's more than sludge. It's just like
cow.
PowerProject family, how's it going? Now, we have had so many different guests that have come onto our podcast, and we've talked about meat a lot. And the one thing that everybody that tries Piedmontese says is that it is some of the most tender steak they have ever had. I think actually Sean Baker came on and talked about the lack of connective tissue in the cattle.
Yeah, he broke it down scientifically, but he did.
That's the reason why when you, whatever cut you get, whether it's a ribeye, whether it's a flat iron, whether it's a bavette, no matter when you cut into that steak after it's cooked, you're not getting any of that chewiness, that
gristle
that you have to spit out because you can't actually chew it. Piedmontese is super tender. They have great cuts that are low fat, high fat for whatever diet you're doing. They're just an overall amazing beef company. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yep, that's over at Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code POWER for 25% off your order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Again, Piedmontese.com, promo code POWER. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
PowerProject family, we talk about sleep all the time on this podcast, as you know. That's why we partner with 8 Sleep Mattresses. And the amazing thing about 8 Sleep Mattresses, and one of the reasons why they are nicknamed the Tesla of beds, is because of the technology behind the Pod Pro cover. Not only does it literally change its temperature through the night, first off, it can go from 55 degrees all the way to 110, but the temperature changes through the night based off your own body temperature. It also tracks your heart rate variability, your tossing and turning, your partner's tossing and turning, and based off of that, in consecutive nights, it will literally change the temperature settings so that you get better quality sleep on different nights. It blows my mind at how great these mattresses are. So, Andrew, tell them how to get it, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other cool thing too is like the app will actually, you track everything through the app, but then it'll send you messages like, hey, do you feel more rested today? Well, that's no surprise because, it gives you all the information. And yeah, it's just really cool, like to be able to track that sort of thing. So that way, you can't get better at something you're not tracking, and it does it for you. So head over to 8sleep.com/PowerProject. That's 8 spelled out. So EIGHT sleep.com/PowerProject, and you will automatically receive $150 off of the Pod Pro cover or the Pod Pro cover and mattress combo. Again, no code for that. You guys will get that automatically. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Is it okay if I start?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for initially reaching out and really for all the effort. When you go and you leave the life that you built and everything that you have going on because you want to make a connection, because you want to unite, it means everything to me. I've dedicated this chapter of my life, to fighting for this cause, so that the world knows that liver is king. I know we've talked about this, but it's because so many people are living a life of hurt, of suffer, of suck, and there's a better life to live, right? It's full of adventure, it's full of excitement, and there's a simple solution that's accessible to everybody. And I know I can't do this alone. So when you initially reached out, I was like, man, I can't wait to get together with you. And then Liver Queen was so excited too. This is the most excited we've been in such a long time. And so I really just want to start by telling you how grateful I am. And there's no possible way that I can do what needs to be done without you. So thank you so much for all the effort and making this all happen.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And you talked about your mission just in that brief little speech there. What do you feel is the cornerstone of the mission, the words that you're trying to get out, convey to people?
Yeah, ancestral living, right? But when I talk about ancestral living, there's these 9 ancestral tenets, and I know most people aren't going to execute at a high level on multiple things at once, right? It's sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, bond. That's like teaching somebody an Olympic lift in 15 seconds, right? This is not happening, right? So the name is Liver King because liver is king. Start with liver. If you can let liver into your
I don't
life,
like liver though.
Oh, how much you want to bet you need liver though?
Why do I need liver?
Because liver is the biggest lever to creating change in your life. You need liver, and I can tell you about the vitamins, the minerals. I can tell you about some of the peptides if you're really interested, because yesterday you asked me and I stumbled on one of them. It was Leap 2 that I stumbled on. But here's the thing, if you want to be an alpha organism, dominating life, do what other alpha organisms do, right? I know we talked about this, but the killer whale, the ultimate predator of the ocean, they rip open another predator, a great white shark, and they go for the liver first, right? The pack of lions that go for the liver first. It's primitive culture tribes that are kicking our fucking ass in life. They go for the liver first, right? Some people may say, oh, I don't like liver. But you know what? 80% of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. They're struggling, right? 70% are obese, right? Half of them are morbidly obese. We got 50% of the population on prescription drugs. 40% has cancer. And 1 out of 5 kids this tall is on prescription medicine. The world needs a solution, right? I want us to be able to acknowledge we have a problem today. We have an epidemic of metabolic conditions, of health conditions, of hurt and suffering.
I'm sorry, what's a metabolic condition?
I think you know what a metabolic condition is, right? The way that I would describe a metabolic condition is something that affects your metabolism in a negative way.
So
right?
Probably like a lot of preventable diseases through not just nutrition, but through these tenets.
Correct. Yeah, through lifestyle, because all 9 ancestral tenets cell signal something so that we can epigenetically express something. And so I think said a little bit more simply is most people are living a life that fucking sucks and they're hurting. And they know this, they know that they're hurting. Most people are incredibly desperate.
Do you think that they realize that their life sucks?
Many people do.
And you don't mean that their life sucks in a judgmental comparison way to your life. You just mean that they're trapped in a lot of pain. Like just from what you hear, is that your experience? Is that what you're sharing? Is that you think people are suffering due to maybe some of the, maybe the things you observed?
Correct, and I'm talking more specifically depression, anxiety, autoimmune conditions. I'm talking about, we said earlier, metabolic conditions, people that have low energy, that have low manhood, right? That are really struggling in life. And I've talked about this guy, Saul, who ran across the Brooklyn Bridge, started doing ancestral tenets. He starts doing push-ups every day. He lost 60 pounds. He's reconnected with life. He has confidence. He stopped drinking alcohol. One of my best friends, Ben, was bedridden in the hospital with an HSCRP over 100, had Crohn's, an autoimmune intractable condition. Now he's kicking ass in life. There's so many stories like this, right? And what I would have to say is, you can't do much worse than how most people know they're meant for more in life. They don't know what else to do, right? They go to a job that they hate. They come home to a life that they don't love. They sedate themselves with enough Netflix, with enough medication, with enough porn, with enough something to call it a day, to call it a week, to call it a month, to call it their life. People know that they're meant for more, right? So people are really hurting, and it's not like I'm just observing and I would compare my life to somebody else's life. You know, what I know is life is about making progress. And when you make progress with a relationship, you have happiness with that relationship. When you make progress with a book, you have intellectual happiness, right? And this is what I want people to know is the big takeaway I'm going to say throughout, hopefully, this conversation is the name's Liver King because liver is king. Start with liver, and once you realize that this improves your mood, this improves your drive, this is the currency of life, and then I hope that you're going to say, maybe this guy isn't just a bumbling idiot. Maybe he knows one thing, and maybe I should look into some of these other 9 ancestral tenets because I didn't make up these 9 ancestral tenets. Right? This is the way our early ancestors have lived. And I know this because I've gone and visited with 6 primitive culture tribes, and we've studied this stuff, right? And a lot of it's just based out of first principle thinking. Like ancestral tenet 7 is sun, right? And you can say, okay, based off of first principle thinking, we got a lot of sun, right? But now the science has come out, and we got great guys like Andrew Huberman, like Paul Saladino, that talk about how important sun is. Right, so there's 9 ancestral tenets, but I want people to start with liver because you can execute at a high level, and liver is going to make the most profound, the fastest change for most people.
This sounds like a really wonderful, these sound like really wonderful ideas. These 8 ancestral tenets, all the stuff you're pointing out. Why do you think via social media a lot of people hate you?
You know, this is an interesting question. I don't think people hate me. You know, I don't think that I really have critics either, right? What I say back is, how can you hate or be a critic to our original way of being, right? If they want to hate me specifically for whatever reason, I would say bring it on. but you can't hate the message. Again, this is not my message. The 9 ancestral tenets belong to your ancestors, belong to their ancestors. What I would have to say back to these traditional thinkers, right, to people that might hate or critique on the message is, you had your time. You had your fucking chance. It didn't fucking work. And now we got a pandemic of issues and people aren't able to fulfill their potential. So I would say now it's my time. And by my time, you know what I mean. What I mean is this is time to usher in the wisdom of our early ancestors, to bring back real struggle, right? To bring back real earning it, to connect with fight. That's the 8th ancestral tenet. You said 8, there's 9, but that's the 8th ancestral tenet. And so what I would say back to haters and critics is, you had your fucking time. Because of other kids like my kids that were really sick at one time, other kids deserve a decent chance in life. Right? Because of people that can't have kids that are suffering with infertility issues, like this primal that I know, Kat, that couldn't have kids, adopted an ancestral lifestyle, boom, just like that. She's able to fulfill her primal purpose to be healthy enough, to be fertile enough, to propagate our species. So what I would say back to these guys is, you're hurting, right? And you had your time, and most of the time what I see is haters are usually hurting the most. And they're projecting that hate, that hurt that they have on other people. And if I can get them to take that energy that they have, because I've seen a lot of times that this has happened. After the Logan Paul show, I got this message, and this is one of my favorite DMs I ever got, and it said, "I've always hated you. Since the inception of Liver King, I hated you. After you did these messages, I hated you." He said horrible things about my kids, my family, you name it. He said, after I saw the Logan Paul podcast, I realized that I was that guy hurting, that I was that guy suffering, and I'm the guy hating life, and I'm projecting the hate that I have for myself back on you and back on other people. And he said, I'm gonna take ownership for the first time in my life. You've made it this realization known to me, that I have control to change my life. So this is what I would have to say back to them, is like, you had your time, you had your fucking chance, and now it's time to honor the struggle of our early ancestors, and I would look deeply into a mirror. And I would say, you cannot do any worse than how you're doing, and how much you want to bet when you scratch the surface of your potential, you start to realize how incredible, how rich, how deep life can be.
This is why I wanted to talk to you, because I've seen so much of your content on Instagram, you're blowing up on TikTok. It's not just the stuff that you put out, but then people are reposting your stuff. Some people are sharing it in kind of like, I think sometimes the internet is like an I told you so kind of thing. So it's like a buddy nudging another buddy, like, I told you, idiot, we should be eating this way. There's other people that are making fun of it. There's other people that are shooting it down. You have like a real wide array of people's thoughts on it. One of the issues with traditional social media, as it is with Instagram and as it is with TikTok, is they're really quick. A big difference can be a podcast. And listening to you on Logan Paul's podcast, and the reason why I've been trying to coerce you into doing a podcast, so I'm grateful that we're here now, is because it is longer format.
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity to really learn and know about the details of what it is that you're saying, because sometimes just in a quick message, you end up with a lot of people going, yeah, but, mm-hmm. I don't like the taste of liver. Yeah, but I don't. What do you think is the main... It sounds like you're pointing to there's some big time failures that have happened. What are some of the big time failures? Do you think that sometimes some of the messaging is maybe not worded correctly? Like this message of telling people like you can eat whatever you want, but you have to do it in moderation. Like, do you personally believe that messages like that are just total bullshit, and they don't maybe, do people need more order or something like that in order to get this, whatever this failure is, together?
I don't know the answer to that. What I know is I don't focus on failure, right? I don't focus on the things that haven't worked. I don't focus on trying to problem solve what hasn't worked up until this point. What I know
but
is
it's time to try something different.
And it's not just something like different, right? This is the original human way of being. This is what enabled us to become the baddest fucking mammalian predators that ever walked the earth. Right, this is what I'm teaching and preaching. Again, these are not my ideas, right? This is what evolved and shaped us to become these apex predators. And if you go and you visit with primitive culture tribes, you'll see that they have no material possessions. They're the happiest people you've ever been around. Completely content, laughing hysterically, right? The culture and chemistry that these modern day primitive cultures have, if any sports team in the United States had this culture and chemistry, they win a championship every fucking time.
Modern day primitive cultures, do they use technology as well and things that are of today?
I wouldn't say up to date. Technology is anything that can be used as a utility by definition, right? So percussion technology is taking that rock and using it in a percussion manner to crack open the cranium to harvest the nutrient-dense brains, right? Same thing, percussion, to do that with a femur bone to take out the bone marrow. These are some of the reasons why these are my favorite foods, right? Because brain and bone marrow are some of our original foods for that reason, because it's locked up to people that couldn't figure out technology to unlock it. But this is technology, and sculpting that into a bifacial blade, having fire at will, all of this is technology. Do they have technology? Absolutely. Language is technology. Do they have the modern day technologies we have? No fucking way. When we were going to visit with the Machigenga tribe, I don't even know how many hours we had to drive. We drove for over a day, and then we drove to the edge of the land, and then we got on a riverboat, and then the electrical poles ran out, and then we were on the riverboat for several hours until they received us. There's no electricity out there. So in terms of the modern day technology we have, it's night and day. They don't have any of that stuff. Yeah, and again, you look at how happy they are, and it will change your whole perspective on things. How do they have the happiness, what we ultimately all want, but they have no material possessions? The bonding, the connecting that they have, is something that we would all admire and aspire to have in our own lives. This is true joy, right? I remember coming back thinking, what is all this material stuff anyways?
Why do you think that they're so fulfilled?
I think because they got it right. I think by getting it right, it means when you sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, and cold thermal pressures, sun, fight, and bond. When you embrace these 9 ancestral tenets, our original way of being, you naturally have this fulfillment, this connection. It's hardwired, it's built into us. This is why I think that, and so this is why I say that, my name is Liver King, I want people to eat liver. But ultimately, what I want people to know is you do this stuff, you set yourself on this trajectory, and you can become anything, even a king. But the only kind of king is a self-made king, right? The guy that takes leadership, ownership, responsibility, and creates the exact life that he wants to live in. Just imagine that, right? Creating the exact life you want to live in, having that ultimate domain, right? When you can create the exact life you want to live in, this is what these people have. And they don't have any material possessions, right? So when you can do that, I think that we need to know that needs to come before you have material possessions. And that's the way it's been for millions of years. We sort of recently said, we don't have to be nomads anymore. Now we can camp in an area, and now we can start to acquire material things. And that could become important to us. And now you never really had to earn those things. And now we're a status-seeking society, and we're attempting to express our value and worth to the outside world with things that we buy at the mall. And most of the time we buy those things on a fucking credit card. Look at how valuable I am. Look at the car I drive. Look at the shirt that I wear. You
didn't even really buy it.
You didn't even fucking really buy it. You sure as fuck didn't earn it. They have everything they need to be happy. And then their material possessions include weapons, right? But that's not really status seeking, right? What they do to express their status is how well they can coordinate and communicate within the tribe. That's usually the chief.
Probably how well they can fight, run, do things for the rest of the tribe, right?
Hunt, one of the most important things. And when you ask some of these guys, what's the happiest day of your life? It's the day that I was able to get big game, feed the whole tribe. And the best hunter knows he's the best hunter. And everybody else says that guy is the best hunter. That is status. Yeah, so I think that's, you could say, or I said, that I don't really focus on where we went wrong, but I think by virtue of talking about this is where we go wrong. Is we focus on being a status-seeking society, and we think that we can just go out and buy it. We never earned it. We never really bought it. And we've missed all these fundamental ways of being. We didn't have the connection, the bonding, these other things that govern real progress, self-discipline, self-progress, self-expression to create and shape the exact life, real ownership. We didn't have that as a fundamental, and now you pile material possessions on top of somebody who doesn't have that, and I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think it's a recipe to buy what someone else is selling Whether it be fast food, a fad diet, a fad way of being, a fad way of seeking status, we're convinced that we need to buy what someone else is selling, and whoever is selling it, they're doubling down, they're tripling down, and guess what? We're still buying it. We're still buying it. So I'm here to fucking fight, because I know what it's like, because my kids were really sick. My kids were really sick. I know a lot of people that were really sick, and my wife and I were not ever really sick. But when we started adopting this lifestyle, our health, our happiness, our progress went through the roof, and we realized, the 24 version of ourselves was nothing compared to the 30-year version or the 45-year version. I like to say that Liver King, would kick that guy's ass, Brian Johnson's ass. And I'm 45 and that guy was 25. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but this is what I think. This is what I know.
Self-made king, you mentioned. Where did you kind of learn that from? Because being on your property here, this is like 500 acres. We were at another beautiful home yesterday. It seems like you have multiple homes, lots of vehicles, lots of really cool, fun stuff. How did you turn yourself into a self-made king, and where do you think this comes from? Come from something in your childhood, or?
Yeah, ultimately, I think it comes from the desperate struggle that I went through for 3 to 5 years, from just before middle school to early years in high school. These were the toughest years of my life. And I think that, we got to fail in the most desperate, catastrophic ways so that we can realize what we're made of, so that we can build ourselves up, so that we can create value, so that eventually we can realize that we're in control of the value and the esteem that we express in the world. And so I think over time you start to realize, if I get on a bench press here, I can create power and strength and worth in myself. And eventually other people start to recognize it, right? Your peers see it, and guys want to follow you, and for the first time ever, girls want to be with you. And so it kind of validates what this whole thing, strength, is about. And what I like to tell people is start by eating liver, go learn the Barbarian, and go do the Barbarian, because you're going to come to know strength. And when you know strength, it's not about physical strength, your ability to impose your force of will. It's about knowing what got you physically strong. When you know that process, active suffering, active struggling, active discipline, laser focus towards one thing, this is what got you physically strong. You can point that process at anything. And just think about that. When you point that process at anything, socially, emotionally, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, holistically, you point that process at anything in your life, and you literally can become anything, even a fucking king, right? You're the king, you're the master of your domain. And then you can shape and create anything and everything you want. So this is how I came up with that, is because I think that there's a whole lot more to the story than let's just end some suffering and struggling. This is where we start, because this is where most people are, right? But what ends up happening is you realize that every outcome in your life belongs to you. And then eventually you realize that everything you do, you're rubbing a fucking genie bottle, and all your wishes are being granted every single day, because you've built systems of greatness and you've taken extreme ownership, of all outcomes in your life. I think it's important for people to know this, that we are capable of infinite measures of absolutely anything. That's where that comes from.
You mentioned to me that you grew up without I guess your dad died when you were young?
Right.
And you don't have memory of him? How young were you, and what did he die from?
Yeah, I must have been 2 or 3. And what he actually died from is still a little bit hazy. Yeah, so he was in the Air Force at the time he was serving, and it's still very hazy. My mom says that he had an appendicitis, an appendix issue, and so he was a veterinarian, and his colleagues or peers were also doctors, and nobody took him serious. We're just all friends. We're all fucking joking around. Hey, you feel bad? Get the fuck over it. Go get a workout. Let's do some cold plunge. Let's go shoot some guns. How much you want to bet you're gonna feel real good tomorrow? So this went on far longer than it should have, and it just passed a point of no return. Yeah, so this is what my mom has told me, but sometimes the story changes a little bit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I know is my mom did the best job she could do as mom and dad, and she taught me how to compete. And that's just one of the most important things that I've learned from her.
Did your mom put you into sports or encourage you to lift, or?
She did. I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I told you I didn't really play organized sports, but when I was little, my mom had me in every sport. She had me in soccer, baseball, basketball, not football, But she did have me in all those organized sports. But once we really got to the older years, when I would say like middle school and up, I'm just in the gym. I'm in my room lifting, and then I start going to the gym. My mom, I don't know if my mom actually did this intentionally. How much you want to bet she did? But she moved us from a pretty nice neighborhood into not as nice of a neighborhood. From a nice house to a little apartment, there was a gym right next door. And I was way too young to drive, but I could walk to this gym and I could get to know this gym. And how much you want to bet she could see how I could see how I was creating worth and value, and how my confidence finally went through the roof. And there's all sorts of things like that it takes me talking about it, to appreciate it. So my mom had us in a lot of organized sports, but really when we were little, when she saw how much I loved doing that, she never really pushed me into anything else. But I think that she achieved her goal, which I believe that a parent has really one goal. It's to see, it's to affirm your kids with a depth of challenge, worth, and potential that they come to believe in themselves. I believe my mom affirmed me with this depth of challenge and always affirmed me with worth and potential. And oh fuck, did I come to believe in myself, right? And I mean, so much so that I probably went a little bit too far on that side, because really what it's about is sharing, right? It's not what you get, it's what you can give, it's what you can share. And this is when life really starts to happen. This is when the heart starts to really beat. Like when you guys came to visit, this has been one of the best days I've had. Yesterday and today's been one of the best days I've had in a while.
Yeah, today was great. Today was awesome. Was anybody else in your family previously successful, or did you have some sort of, was there maybe a mentor or male figure in your life that you ran into that encouraged you to?
Yeah.
Like, how did this all come to be? You're rich as fuck, basically. So how did this come to be?
It came from failing. It came from this catastrophic failure that Liver Queen and I embraced. We said, I wish I could say I had this male mentor in my life. This didn't happen. What it really took was those hard years when I was younger being, I got the shit kicked out of me every fucking day. I had to do something. I looked at this guy and I was embarrassed as fuck of who I had become. I backed down from every fight, and I had nobody to talk to about this. I had nobody to say what I say to my kids. You don't fucking back down from that kind of fight. There are other fights as a king you don't engage in because you got nothing to fucking, a warrior always wants to fight a king. A king doesn't need to fight a warrior. But at this age, at their life, you're a fucking warrior, you better fucking fight. I had nobody help me understand that. I take full responsibility for that. But going through those years, I forged something, right? I forged a belief in myself. My mom helped me be competitive. I forged the ultimate belief in myself. And then what we decided to do, Liver Queen and I were always entrepreneurs. And we decided to take on a business. Then we vertically integrated this business. And then we went through a decade of business fucking nightmare. Business nightmare. Where everyone else gets paid that you employ, right? You always get paid last if you get paid at all. All the employees had better fucking cars than us. None of them had issues paying their bills. Well, guess what? We're in repossession. The building, the real estate business we had, we were being repossessed. Our cars were being repossessed. Our house was being repossessed. Our kids, for whatever reason, we put them into private school back at that time in Montessori. And one day they said, hey, you can't come anymore because you're this far behind. And we're like, yeah, we'll pay it tomorrow. And then of course tomorrow comes, which is really next week and the next week and we're like, they're never gonna collect, just keep putting them there. But one day they put their foot down. They're like, no, today's the day. And I remember we looked at each other several times. This was a tough thing. I think that it takes going through what seems like an impossible time to know what you're made of. And when you get through that, on the other end of that, you realize this was not impossible. This is not just possible, but look at what a fucking champion I am. Look at what a champion we are. So what she does is she says, hey, I'm fucking done with this business. I'm not gonna do this business anymore. I'm gonna go do what I was born to do. I'm gonna be the best fucking mom. I'm gonna go make up for lost time. I'm gonna raise them. I'm gonna show them all the things that is required to be a good man. Like generosity, like humility, like integrity. All the things that I think a woman is more hardwired for us to understand. I think that a man is more hardwired to teach male virtues like strength, courage, mastery, and honor, irrespective of whether it's good or bad. You can look at it back in history, you can look at men that were good at being men without morality, and you can't debate that some of these men were fucking men. Not good men, but good at being men. So what I would say is it took these failures, and it took her saying, I'm done, and it took me trying to figure out the next chapter, right? Because I was always good at being a man, and she knew that in a dark alley I could protect her, that I would protect her. And the equivalent of that happened in a financial crisis. We figured out our way out of that, and she knew that I would figure out this next chapter of our life. And this next chapter of our life was, you know what? If what we did with our kids can help other kids, we need to do this. This is our obligation. This is my responsibility in life now, you know, to do this message, to embrace the ancestral living, to organize it in a way that it can be modeled and preached. So that's what I would say is it took going through those kind of failures, and it took saying, what the fuck do we have to lose to follow a real purpose, a real passion in life? So we made businesses. I should say I made businesses out of ancestral living, and Ancestral Supplements was the first company that I launched. And
that wasn't even that long ago, right?
It was either 2014, I think it was 2014, so it was a little while ago.
Yeah.
It was a little while ago. And it works. You know, everybody needs to let liver in their life, needs to let glandulars in their life, right? Again, we evolved with nose to tail eating since the beginning of our time. We've just recently taken that out of the diet to our detriment. And now we have so many ill effects. It's not just that, it's other things. But again, that's a massive lever. So I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating. I'm the biggest advocate to say, go on a hunt, get that kind of connection with the animal and the land, harvest the organs, and you'll have a deeper appreciation for that. But if you're not going to go on a hunt, and I know a lot of people are not going to do it, go get to know your butcher, go get to know your farmer at your farmer's market, look a man in the eye, shake their fucking hand, unite, right? If you're not going to do that, go to the grocery store, and I get it, if you're not going to do that either, call White Oak Pasture, call Piedmontese, do a direct-to-consumer thing, let them ship it to you. But you know what? There's still a massive part of the population that won't even do that. And so what I do is I take the raw glandulars, we freeze dry them, we put them in capsules, and we make it so easy they can't say no. We lower the barrier of entry, which is a big thing that you do, right?
Absolutely.
We've lowered it so low that it's accessible to everybody. And once you try it, almost everybody sees the value in it. And so the repeat customers are over 80%. And so this is where we started, and I just started with liver, and then the anecdotes just poured in. And so then we expanded to all the organs: heart, pancreas, spleen, kidney, bone marrow, brain, thymus, you name it. And so there was such a demand. This is a true demand creation model. And people said, more. And so we've just taken off, not just with ancestral supplements, but now there's Heart and Soil, there's Medicine Man Plant Co., there's The Fittest, there's Strong Jaw, there's quite a bit of these supplement companies that we've launched into different categories, but it's all based on ancestral living.
Do you feel like your message is working? I think you're maybe only like 8 months in, and you have a lot of followers, so it seems like there's a lot of positivity there. Do you think people are like understanding it? Do you feel like you're misunderstood, or do you feel like people are doing pretty good with some of the message that you have out there now?
This has been wild. What I don't think a lot of
I mean,
people
and it's
realize,
also just in the subset of the fitness industry right now, right? Don't you think it's kind of just
I don't think
in
so,
that
actually.
niche? No, okay.
You might think so. I don't know, but I don't think so.
I don't know either.
What I would really first say is that I resigned as CEO of all these other companies so I can focus on one thing, and that's the Liver King Company. And I hired a CEO for the Liver King Company to drive us forward, so I can focus on getting this message out, so I can embrace these kind of opportunities, not knowing all the ancillary benefits to connect and all the intangible things that get to happen by doing this sort of stuff. But this was my job. My sole job is to model, teach, and preach this message. And so I always say that people pay for value with time or money or both. And so the way that I judge the value that we're creating in the world is what sort of followership do we have? How many primals are following this message? And like you said, it's been 8 months or so. And there's the collective amount of around 5 million people across the social platforms. And the way that they're engaging, from what I understand, if you benchmark the engagement with other accounts, our engagement is through the roof, right? For me to be able to read the DMs on a daily basis and to see the impact that we're making on young kids that are 15 years old, who says my dad doesn't model, teach, or preach any of this stuff, but guess what? My dad likes your content. My dad wants me to follow your content and wants you to do this stuff. And now I've been doing this stuff. And I went from this kind of kid to this kind of kid with this kind of confidence. That gets me fired up. And I go read that to my kids. Striker, Rad, you got to see this DM. You know, that gets me fired up. I know that we're creating value. And for the first time, I would say maybe in 8 years, 6, 7, 8 years, I know that our vision of taking ancestral living mainstream is going to happen. It's going to happen because now when we go places, I know that I shared that we have around 5,000 followers, but when we go places, it feels like more. We go places and the crowds start coming. This is unbelievable, unbelievable. And they're like, Liver King, Liver King. And I'm like, first of all, it blew us all away.
I think it's those pecs.
You think it's the pecs?
I think so.
You don't think it's the abs?
Ah, it might be the abs.
What about the beard power? I got some good beard power.
People like a good beard. It's a combination, I think, of everything.
I agree. It's got to be the combination. You know, it's the whole unit. But this is the thing. I'm like, you know, why is the name Liver King? Right? Because this is not some egotistical, you know, moniker I gave myself. Don't get me wrong. It feels good to be called a king. You know, Liver Queen calls me king around the house. The kids sometimes call me. Actually, you guys call me Liver King, especially when their friends are around. It's because liver is king, and that's what I say. Hey, do you know why? Do you know why the name is Liver King when I'm out and about? And a lot of people knew. No, they say it's because liver is king, and I say, are you eating liver? And the guys that say yes, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's get over here. Let's take a picture. Let's do some push-ups. Let's do something together.
Do you take some liver? Okay, no pictures for you, right?
I say,
if they're not eating it.
Get in the back of the fucking line. Yeah. Get in the back of the line, because if all you're doing is mindlessly consuming the content for entertainment, I'm still advancing the message. This is still in your head, and you might need to hear this message a different way 30 different fucking times before it actually touches you to execute on it. I'm okay with that. I'm not giving up, you know, but it impresses the hell out of me how many people say, because liver is king, and I say, are you eating liver? And they say they are, and then they tell me what other tenets they're doing. I'm also stacking the sun and the earth because of you. And this only takes a couple minutes to do. When I was talking to
what does that mean, stacking the sun and the earth?
The first things to do in the morning is I get out of my wooden plank bed, I take a fucking piss, and I go straight outside to get to fucking work. And what I call that is I go outside to get early morning sun through the eyes, on the face, on the skin. I have my bare feet connected, anchored, grounded into the earth.
What if it's chilly outside?
No matter what.
Okay.
Right, no matter what. It's wild to me how many people say that. And when we were in Yellowstone,
what if it's raining?
There was snow all over. You know, and we've been in walking, you know, in snow when it's been outside. And we walked in the snow after being in probably 34, 35 degree water for about 12 minutes. And then we walked half a mile in the snow, and it was really painful, really, really painful. But just recently, we weren't initially prior submerged in water. We got in the snow and it was no problem. I'm like, to have bare feet in the snow is no fucking problem for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes. Right? But what I tell people is start somewhere. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I don't care if it's cold. I don't care if it's raining. Yesterday, it went raining. We went on a walk. We had mud sloshing between the toes. Right? Like, you know what that does?
We got mud all over us today.
We did get mud.
That smelled a little bit like poop here and there.
Oh, I guarantee you there's poop everywhere.
It's questionable.
It's not even questionable. I guarantee it. And this is why I said to you, when we go through this kind of mud, the kind of probiotics we're going to have on our skin biome and our oral biome and our respiratory biome.
Making that immune system strong.
You don't need no oral probiotics when you're living outside in nature like this. Yeah, so this is what I think of, you know, as evidenced by the followership. I believe that we've struck an accord with people because people know that they need more in their life. They know that they're meant for more in their life. They don't know how to achieve more in their life. And I think that this is starting to make sense. I think and people are able to execute on something really simple. They start eating liver, they feel better, they start stacking the sun and the earth, and they feel even better. They say, well, what else is there? They go learn to lift heavy shit, they learn about Barbarian, you know, they start bonding, they start fighting, they start doing more of these tenets, and then they start to realize, holy fucking shit, what he says is actually true. I can actually become anything. I can become anything. So I think that we're doing a pretty decent job right now, but this is just the beginning, right? As you know, this is just the beginning. Like, this is our time to fight and create more momentum and to lean into this and to take the opportunities like getting together with you so that we can continue to spread the message.
Have you talked about yourself in the third person even before social media?
No. I would say no. I haven't. But again, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think just...
Can I just interrupt just for a moment and just tell you, like, when I heard you doing that, like, first of all, I love pro wrestling. So to me, it's like a wrestling promo. So I got fired up for it. Secondly, seeing the followers and all the stuff that you have and seeing that grow and grow and grow, I was like, fuck yes, this is great. Like, we need more people like this. So I'm a fan. Like, I think it's awesome, you know? But when I also hear you talking in third person, I'm like, man, there's just a lot of people that are just, you know, you're going to take it the wrong way, you know? And
Sure.
there's nothing, you can't please everybody. You know, if you're trying to please everybody, you're going to probably please nobody, right?
Yeah. Listen, a lot of people don't realize why I started doing that. And I started doing it because I got 60 seconds. This is what my social guy said. Hey, listen, you got 60 seconds. And if you really go back to the very beginning of my social, I bet I don't refer to myself in Liver King third person at all. But then I realized I got 60 seconds to tell somebody about this message, that liver is king. So I'm gonna say, Liver King here. Here's what Liver King's having for dinner. Liver King out. I've said Liver King 3 times in a 60-second clip. And what I need for people to know is my name. And by my name, they need to know the message. Because liver is king.
My name is Slim Shady, right? Like, that's his first that's his first big song. He said it over and over again.
And people know the name. I go places and people don't. And then I say why, and they say because liver is king. And you know, by the way, like, social norms are just social norms because somebody fucking stood in line and accepted. We're supposed to say I and me. Who the fuck is I and me? You know what? I don't even know your name. We just talked for 5 minutes and I don't know your name. But guess what? If you refer to yourself in the third person, I'll probably never forget you. You know, and so this is why I started doing it, because too many people are hurting. I got to find a way to be more effective. And so how you do anything is how you do everything. Progress is that way. And I start to think, how do I become more effective? You know, and if I can say Liver King here, Liver King this, Liver King out, you just heard the name 3 times.
I also think you may have done it too to leave Brian Johnson in the rearview mirror a bit. What do you think about that?
There's no doubt. Prior to social, I had already made that change. Yeah, that Brian Johnson, the corporate fucking guy, was gone. We would go to the.
What was wrong? What was wrong with him? Was there something wrong with him?
Again, I don't really focus on that side, right?
Okay.
It's like, it's not necessarily what was wrong with him. It's
You're
like
just becoming better.
What's right with this guy? Like the wild, free, primordial, undomesticated. You know, this Barbarian guy. It's my truest, most authentic self. When you can live that guy, it's like the weight of the world is gone. You don't need a fucking drink when you can live your wild, free self. And so when that guy
But
comes
you
out,
have some drinks here and there.
oh man, you're right. But I'm just saying you don't need it.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, I feel like since you guys got here, I've been having drinks. We haven't had a drink. Right? My guys show up to dinner and I don't like their energy. And I go, yeah, boy. And then we get to this crescendo. And guess what? Like, you got this uninhibited, wild, free, incredible energy version of yourself, right? And we were all born this way. But over time, these societal norms, these social norms, the mindlessly standing in line and sitting on a couch guy, that was Brian fucking Johnson, right? And then not a lot of times.
Brian Johnson was maybe more compromising. You could be compromised at times and not defend your workouts and your eating and you could go with the flow maybe more, and now you're like opinionated, like, no, this is what I'm doing kind of thing. Is it more like that?
I would still say I'm incredibly open-minded, but yes, what I would say is I can really speak my fucking heart, my principles, my mind. I feel like I'm that free. I feel like this is the true version of myself. And so, yeah, I left that fucking guy behind. We would go to the airport, people would look at the passport, and they would say, who the fuck is that guy? And Liver Queen and I would be like,
so no beard, no nothing?
Oh, no hair even.
Oh shit.
I shaved it off, you know, and again, you know, I just believe like I did that because of, you know, social norms. And I'm like, that guy's fucking gone. That guy's dead. And of course, like, oh my God, like, did you really kill him? Yes, I did. I really fucking let that guy have it. And this is what I encourage people to do. You know, when you're in a fight situation, when you're in a life and death situation, when you're in the gym hitting PRs, when you immerse yourself in the wild, that wild barbarian guy comes out. And every time he comes out, he gets a little bit stronger. And he gets so fucking strong one day that he rips out of that cage and he eats his predecessor. And then you never have to shrink back to that original size. And life can be that grand, that incredible. You know, I believe that's how a true self-made king gets made, gets born, and then gets to live that kind of life.
Power Project family, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. Now, Mark, Andrew, and myself have been cold plunging for a while now. We actually use the Cold Plunge XL. But the reason why this has become part of our daily routine every single day is because of honestly how good it makes us feel coming out of that water. Now, if you want to take a cold shower, that is beneficial and you need to be doing that if you don't have a cold plunge. But if you do get a cold plunge that goes all the way down to 39 degrees, it's crazy because Andrew Huberman actually talked about the benefits of dopamine post cold plunging. Now, cocaine gives you a 2.5 rise in your dopamine release. Cold plunging gives you that also, but it also gives you a sustained higher level of dopamine throughout your day. That's just one of the benefits, as there are many. So if you guys want to get on it, Andrew, how can they?
Oh, yes. You guys got to head over to thecoldplunge.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $150 off. And before we drop off here, I do have to say that this has been the absolute best thing I have ever done for my mental health. Every single day I get in this cold plunge and I come out a happier, more positive, and more vibrant human. I can't recommend this enough. Again, thecoldplunge.com, promo code PowerProject to save $150 off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
We did some stuff today, like just shooting guns. Like it's hard to put into words. You know, when you fire a gun, you fire a particular gun. Each gun gives you each gun has like a different power. Each gun has a different kind of specialty to it. And each gun makes you feel slightly different. And even going around in the razors and stuff like that has a certain particular feel to it. Like you're in nature, you're running through mud, getting water all over us. Like there's an experience to it where the experience feels undeniable. Like it feels like there's something very aggressive or powerful going on, even though it's not necessarily aggressive. Like it's not aggressive to shoot a gun necessarily, especially when you're just shooting at like targets. But there is something to a lot of the stuff that I think that you're sharing. And I think if you think about a lot of the days that we have, or in your case had, a lot of times you're going from one climate controlled area to another. You go from your home, and then your home's got air conditioning and everything, right? And as soon as you get out of the shower, you put clothes on, you get socks, you get shoes on. No need to make any contact with the ground. Like I don't want to make contact with the ground, so I don't want to that would hurt my feet, right? Yeah. So I put socks, I put shoes on. I go inside another controlled climate controlled box, which is your car. Yeah. Drive to a climate controlled office, and then when somebody sometimes walks into your office, if you have a nice office, one of the things that people are always so excited about is how giant your window is. And you're like, wow, look at that. You can see outside. Look at the view. But like, God forbid that we're actually outside. Yeah. And God forbid those people in that office building go outside, go for a walk, get some sun. I think that if some people would maybe just slow themselves down here and there, just take a breath, take a beat, give it a second, and instead of reaching for that Monster energy drink or that cup of coffee, just go outside, go for a walk, try to get as much exposure to the sun as you possibly can in just a quick, easy walk, and you're gonna notice some huge changes. Listen to a podcast or go with no technology at all and just be with yourself. I think a big problem that we have is that a lot of people don't sit with their own thoughts. And one of the reasons why I think that happens, where people avoid being by themselves and being with their own, like if they're by themselves, then a podcast has to be playing or music has to be playing. There has to be a distraction. And it's my belief that people that if you feel lonely when you're alone, it's because you're in bad company. You haven't built yourself up from the inside yet. You haven't made yourself into the person that you need to become. So I'm in agreement with a lot of the stuff that you're talking about.
I want to make a comment about this because I say this all the time. I recently got flack about telling people that Liver Queen has an affection quota, which is true. And I don't think this is a bad thing, or else there will be consequences, you know. And the consequences are nothing bad about her. It's about our relationship is going to suffer, right? And you know how great it feels to have somebody grab your hand, right? To put her hand on your shoulder, to give you kisses. You know,
how about your spouse just stops you for a second, looks you in the eye, says, "I love you. I'm proud of you." How amazing does that feel?
This is it. Because you attract your complementary opposite. This is not just with the person that you call your wife. This is with the people that you hang out with. right? You got to create value in yourself to create value with your inner circle tribe, right? So I'm like, hey, listen, you want a hot spouse, but you better fucking go create some value in yourself. And when you do those kinds of things, you better start by lifting some heavy shit. You better go outside, and instead of having a food snack like you talked about, go on that movement snack. Instead, do some push-ups, go on the walk, get the sun, connect with the earth, and how much you want to bet you're so much more fulfilled and satiated that you don't need that food snack anymore. You never needed the calories to begin with. And so I think that this is an important thing that will help people create some lift. Is most people know that I say that you earn the life and the wife that you behold. And that's something you have to earn. So you start with yourself. You create value in yourself. So many people send me these DMs. This is true. Oh my God, I just broke up with my girlfriend. I don't know what I'm going to do. How do I get her back? And I'm like, oh fuck, you're asking this guy this question. Fuck, man, listen, I don't know the situation, but I know what I would do. I know that I would create all the value and worth and potential in myself. I would get myself into the gym. I would start reading books. I would interact with anyone and everyone I could. I would not sedate myself mindlessly by being distracted with X, Y, and Z. I would create real worth, real value, real potential. And you know what? You're going to attract your complementary opposite. It may or may not be her. And you're going to be geometrically or exponentially, maybe I should say, better.
I've learned this. Don't chase people that don't want to be caught. It's very clear sometimes that someone doesn't want you in their life. So
yeah,
I've run into a lot of people asking me stuff like that too. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any game. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to win a woman back.
But still, at the end of the day, you better create that value and worth in yourself. Right. Because something happened along the way where people got in shape to meet each other and to get married. And then they stayed in shape for the honeymoon.
Yeah.
And then someone told them afterwards, hey, just let yourself go, right? They expressed their highest and most dominant form. She expressed her highest and most beautiful form. They got married, and then they let themselves go. And then they start looking outside of the relationship for what they deem is attractive, to still be satiated in that way, to have that need met, which is bullshit. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your complementary opposite to stay in your highest and most dominant physical form, to keep what you believe is attractive, love and lust inside the marriage, right? And so I don't care. This is why I feel like I can say, listen, I don't fucking know shit about like why you guys broke up, but I know this about you. I know if you create this kind of value, this worth, you don't have to chase anybody. Because it's going to make sense because of how valuable you are. You're going to create your complementary opposite. You're going to end up creating and shaping the exact life that you want to live in. So I think it's really important. People try and make things really complicated, about relationships and breakups and stuff like that. A lot of times, if you get back to the fundamentals, you start living the 9 ancestral tenets, you express your highest and most dominant form, you end up creating and shaping that exact life that you want to live in. You end up beholding the wife and the sex life that you always dreamed of.
What was if there is any single reason on why your social media exploded, do you have any idea what happened along the way?
I just truly believe in my heart of hearts, people really are hurting. And people have been needing this kind of message. And, I never wanted to do any of this stuff. Like we talked about yesterday, before social media, I was rich and anonymous, and now I'm not anonymous anymore. And it doesn't really confer advantages outside of my job as the CEO of the Ancestral Lifestyle. It confers advantages because this is my job, is to teach and preach and model the message so that it goes mainstream. And we had enough people come over to our house and say, Liver King, you're the real fucking deal. Like the things that you've talked about, you actually do all. I've never met anybody that actually does all of these things. You and your wife are the most authentic. Your family, your kids, you eat this way, you live this way. Everybody cold plunges, everybody gets sun. First thing in the morning, my kids stack the sun in the earth. Everybody's lifting, everybody's doing hard shit. A lot of their friends come over, they don't really want to hang out that much because they got to do hard shit too. But on the other side of hard shit is this incredible way to be. So I think what ends up happening is people are really fucking hurting. And we got to make a difference, right? They know that they're hurting. They can acknowledge that. But most people don't know the path to getting well, to becoming happy, to progress. And I'm just saying, man, start with liver. Start eating liver, start lifting heavy shit, learn the Barbarian, know what strength is. You're gonna stack the sun and the earth. I hope that you'll tune into the stories, because you're gonna get tidbits of every day and Liver King philosophy that I go over with my kids every single day. You're gonna get pulled into some of this stuff. And these are the systems that I've created in my life that have helped me shape the exact life that I wanna live in. I wanna share this with everybody, right? This is no secret, but I will say it's tough stuff to do, but it's not tough to start. You just gotta get started. You just gotta take action to get started. So I think the success really has been predicated on the fact that people are hurting. They know they're hurting. They know that they're meant for more. They don't know how to achieve more. I'm laying out the path. Here's how you can achieve more. And you know that I'm not full of shit, because this is the way of our early ancestors. This is how they lived to achieve the highest version of themselves. I'm just bringing that shit back. I'm putting back in what the modern world has left out. And I'm damn proud to be able to do it, because the anecdotes are in the hundreds of thousands.
And I think you mentioned to me that it was helpful to have some other people that have been talking about nutrition for a long time to bring you to the forefront. They try to like out you, or they try to, I don't know, catch you saying stuff that maybe is incorrect or not science-based.
Yeah.
Right?
This has been one of the greatest things that ever happened. That we were in Mexico, my wife and I, we had just started Instagram, and Derek from More Plates, More Dates does a thing on Liver King. One of the greatest days of my life. I ran to my wife at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like, Liver Queen, check this shit out. I'm on More Plates, More Dates. I couldn't believe it. We called the kids over. They were sleeping. It was like just barely getting light outside. One of the greatest days, because, the biggest issue everybody has when they're trying to spread the message is obscurity. He single-handedly launched me out of obscurity, irrespective of was the message favorable or not. Well, guess what? A lot of people do say, any PR is good PR. There's no doubt in this case, he single-handedly introduced millions of his followers to a guy that nobody had ever heard of. So if this guy is completely full of shit, no one's gonna follow him. But you know how many followers we captured from that one post? And then this happened again a couple of days later. Lane Norton had done a post, and it wasn't a favorable post. My wife and I were on cloud 9 again. I didn't know it could get higher, and we're just having the time of our lives, beyond grateful for everything that's happening, and realizing this thing's actually going to go mainstream because people are paying attention, because something's happening in a polarizing enough fashion to where other people actually want to talk. Other influencers with megaphones want to talk about this. So I couldn't be more grateful. I don't care how you want to paint this, because when followers are like, oh, hey, just out of curiosity, the name Liver King, what is this? They click over and they see what's on there, and there's such a high conversion percentage. And so I couldn't be more grateful. Anybody who wants to say anything that they want to say, first of all, I just want people to know I'm beyond grateful, and I mean it. I'm so grateful that you did this, because look at where we are now, and we're just getting started. So this is my philosophy, is like, there's no such thing as competition. Abundance is really a way to be, right? We're not competing for the same followers or for the same pool of any kind of resources, right? Hardly anybody in the world knows the story, the value of nose to tail eating, of glandulars. What we need to do is unite, and if we unite, here's the thing, I know where I'm going. And what I want to do is take all these guys in the same ecosystem. Because everyone, they've been doing it for a lot longer than I've been doing it. And guess what? Without you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at now. And so I'm just deeply appreciative, and I want everybody to win.
Nutrition science, you get a lot of people talking about science-based, nutrition. They wanted to have some sort of scientific literature behind it. I'm kind of the belief that I don't think that nutrition-based science has done anything to advance, especially here in the United States. There's the fitness industry is huge. I don't think other countries are like this. The fitness industry is pretty crazy here. There's probably more studies done here in the United States than there probably isn't anywhere else in the world. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just imagining that's the case. We put a lot of money, a lot of resources behind it. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in any of the science that's ever happened, but it seems like it still seems like for some reason it's not helpful. What are some of your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are so incredibly simple when it comes to this. It's, what do wild animals do? What did our early ancestors do? What do modern day primitive culture tribes do? right? Because my thesis isn't to tell you how much riboflavin, choline, vitamin B12, ergothioneine, or leap-2, or hepcidin, or any of these peptides that are in whatever, right? Based on science. My thing is to say, what we bottle is far more important than what we teach and preach. You don't have to look too far to see how evolution has this elegant design to kick ass in life. So what I say is, let's do like what they do, and let's try it, right? Try it for 30 days. And there's so many people that have these intractable, recalcitrant, chronic conditions. They don't know what the fuck they're already on 5 medications. They've been to 5 different doctors. Doctors don't want to hear it anymore, right? They've told all of their friends don't want to hear it anymore. They have nobody. And so what I'm wanting to advance is, based on looking at the historical record, based on looking at what other badass species are doing, try this. Just try it. And what I know is that many people will have their life changed. There was this lady, Cindy, and her husband came up to me during Jeep Week, and this guy, I was doing Barbarian, and this guy goes, hey, I took your supplements, they didn't do shit. Oh my God, I'm thinking, not during Barbarian. Don't start shit with me during Barbarian. I don't even know if I have the energy to throw this kettlebell at you. And he changed his tone. He goes, but they changed her life. And she goes, I'm Cindy. Actually, she starts telling her story. I go, what's your name? Because I want to remember your name. It's Cindy, and she has fibromyalgia, chronic pain, chronic fatigue. And she hadn't been out of the house in 2 years. And she starts eating liver, sun and earth, and now she's at Jeep Week for the first time in 2 years. And I said, I hope that you make this a routine. I hope that you continue to deeply connect like this. And as you do this, now it's your job to touch other people on the shoulder and to spread this message, because this doesn't happen just with this guy. I need everybody to do this, right? And so you can look at the science, but it's tough to apply logic in a biologic system. It's tough to look at the incentives that are here to prove or parse out whatever people are incentivized to do. What I have to say is, like, I think it's a whole lot more simple than what science is trying to make it out to be. And if you're skeptical about it, try it. It's actually going to save you money. It's going to save you time. Try this. And if it's not a profound difference, go back to sucking ass at life. But how much you want to bet for most people it'll be a profound difference? And not only will it change their life, but they have to. They know now it's an obligation to share it with everyone in their family. And now everyone in their family is going to share it with everyone in their respective congregation. And people collectively are going to express a higher form and a better life.
What does your diet look like?
Liver. I do liver and bone marrow with every meal. So I do liver and bone marrow. I do raw fertilized eggs. And so with breakfast, it's liver, bone marrow, raw fertilized eggs. It's a Liver King bar. It's a whole beef shake. It's some yogurt. So there's a lot of whole foods in there.
That Liver King bar was really something else. I took one out of the fridge.
Did you?
It's fantastic.
Thank you. And so that's my breakfast pretty much every day. And again, most of it is just whole foods. And then you look at my lunch, it's pretty similar, because these are my after workout meals. And then dinner still has liver and bone marrow in it, but it's usually almost always nose to tail stuff. We have raw testicle, we have raw heart, we always have some kind of raw organ on the menu every single day. In addition to the liver and bone marrow, we have some additional raw organs that's on there. I'm just thinking about what we're having today.
I know, I'm getting excited. What do you have any cravings and stuff like that? Like, and has that previously ever been a problem for you?
It has been a problem, and I'm just gonna have to laugh about this, because I know my kids are gonna think this is so hilarious because it's so true. We had been living haphazardly into this lifestyle. We had been eating the right way, but not doing all 9 ancestral tenets. And then we were in a vacation at the Grand Bellas in Mexico. And they brought like some pastries. And of course we ate all the stuff we're supposed to eat. But now everybody's getting ready to go out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna eat these pastries. And I eat these pastries, and Rad still gives me shit about this today. I craved it. I wanted it. It almost was like I couldn't help myself. And I was embarrassed to do it. The deal is, I believe this is why the 9 ancestral tenets is so important, because you could just be missing one of them, like sleep. You could be missing fight. You could be missing bonds. You could be missing the thermal pressures. When you embrace all 9 of these, I believe you're so satiated, you're so fulfilled, that there's no food that you crave anymore. There's no bad food that you crave anymore. I do crave liver. I would have never thought in a million years I would have ever craved liver. I crave liver now, but I have absolutely zero craving for any processed food. And when you look at what I get to eat every day, I mean, we eat bone-in ribs, we eat ribeye steaks, we eat lobster. Today, I don't even know what we're having. It looks
I saw
like
some cheeseburgers over there and some French fries.
and we got steaks.
French fries cooked in some tallow, I bet.
How much you want? And the thing is, like, I can't think of any food that I would rather eat than this. So
It's incredible. When we ate last night, had that big pork loin and all the other stuff that was on the table. I've noticed for myself, I've been eating in a similar way for a few years, and then especially the last several months, kind of locked into some other stuff like eating liver and things like that. And once I brought in liver and even just kind of like, I just even ate more, period. I noticed that the cravings subsided.
Yeah.
And my sleep got better. You know, that there's other things that I've been doing as well that have probably impacted my sleep, but that was a big factor. Like just letting go and just being like, just eat these nutrient dense foods and just see where it takes you.
It's not easy to do when you have the background I think that we have, which is pretty similar, which is high protein, high carbs, cut out the fat. And you know what? The body knows that you need more than that. It knows that fat is nourishing, but it goes beyond that too. It goes to like, you really need these ancestral tenets to really be nourished, to really be satiated. Being lonely, how horrible is that? You need to bond. We've always needed each other. We still do. And when I have this kind of bonding, I love the food we eat, and usually I want to eat double the steak. And a lot of times I eat double the fucking steak. There's many times where I don't push away from the table. I eat it all. But when I get this kind of bonding, the intangible satiety that comes from this, I'm done. Like I'm not even hungry right now. I'm gonna eat because I know I need to eat. But once we've bonded and we've connected at this kind of level, your life is so much more fulfilled. This goes far beyond food, right? But I haven't had a craving for anything processed. You can show me any pile of donuts you want. You can show me those pastries that I had, back at the Granvellas. There's absolutely no fiber in me.
Your diet's also not limited to meat. Like you have almond butter,
right?
You eat honey, maple syrup.
Right.
What else do you eat?
I think you've covered most of it. We have a lot of ghee. We have a lot of dairy.
Probably not afraid to use some seasonings and stuff. And
I'm okay with that. Liver Queen will have certain days where she goes, hey, we're not doing no seasonings, right? Because what the carnivore MD says, I think he's brilliant, and I think he's onto something. I think most of what he says is dead on. And so sometimes I think, I'm going to hedge and I'm going to be a little bit extreme like him some days. But on other days, I'm also going to hedge and I'm going to have some of these other things. And you'll see that you're going to see avocados, you're going to see some onions, you're going to see some potatoes, you're going to see the maple syrup. Every once in a while, you might see some salad, some things that look like salad.
Any diet soda or anything like that?
I don't do any diet soda or anything like that.
Sparkling water.
To me, like, there's nothing more delicious.
I know, they are great.
Than really cold sparkling water. Yeah, but there was a time in my life when I was working for someone else. I was in my early 20s. I would go to Whataburger. I would go through the drive-thru. I can't believe I'm saying this. And I would get 3 of those whole wheat buns, the chicken sandwiches on the whole wheat buns, pickles, mustard, and a diet Dr. Pepper. And I would sit in my car by myself, and oh my God, it was so good. And the thought of that now is like, compared to what I get to eat, like what I eat is so much better tasting and so much better for you. Yeah, so I think there's more to the story than allowing yourself to have the calories and to have the nutrient density. It's the nutrient density that comes from being nourished from the sun, from the earth, from these connections, thermal pressures, all of the things. But I still also am convinced that the biggest lever is going to be start with liver, start lifting heavy shit. And then other things that are easy to do, stack the sun, stack the earth, turn off your fucking Wi-Fi at night. This is not doing anything for you. Put your phone in airplane mode at night. You do not need your phone. Are you talking on the phone when you're sleeping? There's some things that are so easy to do that won't change your life in any negative way. And so again, if you look at the cost benefit, there's zero cost to it and there's potential benefit to it. So this is what I want people to do. We'll start easy. We'll start with a few things. But again, I hope what they do is they pay attention and they say, holy shit, like what we did. How much further can I take this? How much more can I optimize? And then this becomes your responsibility. You guys, I'm living the best years of my life. I'm 45 years old. I feel, I never knew that life could be this rich. And what I want to tell people is there's no such thing as peaking when you're younger. Your best years are so far ahead of you. You know, and people underestimate what they can do over a longer time horizon, and almost everybody overestimates what they can do in 6 months, right? Stick to it. Stick to it. But how much you want to bet you start with something small, you feel the difference, and now you're convinced. Again, this thing is not like some half-baked thesis that I have. This is the way that our early ancestors have lived for millions of years. And I'm just saying, if they did this, we should think about doing it too, because they're kicking our ass.
Joe Rogan made a pretty interesting statement on his show. Him and somebody else were talking about you, and I think the other guy was saying that you eat liver and that you do some of these ancestral tenets, and Joe Rogan said something to the effect of, I don't think he's doing any of that, he's got an ass full of steroids, that guy. Joe Rogan's also usually pretty high on his show. Like, what do you think of that comment?
First of all, I just want to say I think he's incredible. I think that I couldn't be more grateful that he's talking about me. Joe Rogan said, this guy. I mean, you know that in and of itself. I go to run the Liver Queen again. This guy that I hold in the absolute highest regard, irrespective of the light he's painting me in. Look at how happy I am. You know, look at how many people that have never heard of me have now heard
Liver
of me.
King? Who? Right?
This is, you know, one of the greatest feelings. I also just do want to say, I think that him saying that is dangerous. You know, I want to set the record straight. I would love the opportunity to talk to him face to face, to really get deep into the 9 ancestral tenets. What I'll share back with you, and I'm just going to face it head on. I don't touch this stuff. I've never done this stuff. I'm not going to do this stuff.
What stuff?
The ass full of steroids that he talks about.
You've never taken steroids?
Never taken steroids. I've never done PEDs other than prioritize, execute, and dominate in life. The other day, somebody said something about growth hormone. Somebody said something about insulin. Somebody keeps going off on the deep end and saying, what about designer drugs that nobody can fucking detect? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, what about that, Liver King?
And there's all these peptides too, right? Oh my goodness. I mean, I didn't know how deep this could possibly go. For the
SARMs.
record, I haven't taken it, and I don't take it. You know, and I can't wait to show more of the young Liver King. I think I told you this yesterday. We were just looking, I think the day before, maybe it was yesterday, at pictures, and they showed me this picture that I was really embarrassed of. It was a video because I was posing, and I never thought anybody would ever see this. I mean, I didn't even know that it was recorded, but I was like, oh my God, how long ago was this? This is about 10 years ago, and I'm like, I look pretty similar 10 years ago to how I look right now. I was probably leaner, but what I want to say is this. He said that I had an ass full of this. What I want to say back is, what I have is 35 years of hard fucking work. Before I was 10 years old, I've been training. For most of these years, I never took a single day off. And we were proud of that. I didn't take Christmas off. I didn't take Thanksgiving off. For the latter years, I've been working out twice a day, right? I usually get 12 to 14 workouts in a week. And this doesn't even count the micro workouts I do.
You did 2 workouts today, and today was a day off.
And today was a day off. And how much you want to bet I'm still not done? I'll get a micro workout in so that I can look my best on camera. This will still happen, so I don't count those. What I would say back to Joe Rogan and anybody else is, you've never met a single person in your life that's worked out for this many decades on end, that has suffered with this kind of depth, with this kind of duration, with this kind of intensity. You've never met anybody in your life that's done this. And people say it's impossible. But again, somebody should tell him, hey, it's impossible to sell your podcast for $100 million. It's impossible to create a fucking rubber band that can increase your bench by 50 pounds, right? Everything is impossible until the fucking guy, the evolutionary hunter that has enough of a fucking dick to lay down the line that he doesn't. You know, I want him to know that you've never met a guy like me. I don't care what you say. You've never, ever met a guy like me that's done this kind of work. And I shared this on another podcast, but I want to set things into perspective. When I was in college, I weighed 175 pounds, single digit body fat. This is 25 years later, and I've gained less than a pound of muscle a year. So over 25 years, I've gained about 20 pounds, less than a pound of muscle a year. Do you think that's possible?
Absolutely. I want to also point out, like, in this conversation, and I don't believe there's anything that you can do to prove to people that you're not on them. Like, there's, even if we were like, hey, you know, we're going to get you tested by WADA, you know, that's the Olympic drug, the people that test for drugs in the Olympics. Like, nothing would be good for anybody. Like, it wouldn't be good enough. You know, they would say, oh, well, maybe he paid, you know, he did something. So it's always such an interesting topic. But what I would also say is, like, you're jacked as fuck. You have a big chest. You're very lean. You're keeping your shit together. Your arms are big. Your shoulders are good. So there's definitely appearance that you have a physique that is way beyond what a lot of other people have achieved. That just, you know, just hit the gym here and there. But what I'd also say is that you're around 190 pounds, right?
I'm 195 pounds.
Yeah, so that is very big actually for considering how lean you are. But is it like out of this world? It's not like you're 250. You know, a lot of times when nothing proves anything. Like, right? It doesn't really matter. Kind of what we say here. There's nothing that I can say. There's nothing that you can say. Be like, I'm a good guy. I don't take them. My brother and I, when we were kids, we would go to. We loved, you know, powerlifting when we were really young, and our parents were so enthusiastic about this group of people that were called the Power Team. The Power Team would go to these Christian. We were Christian
with the books and stuff.
Yeah. And they would lift all these weights and do all these things, and like, you know, they had a thing about being, you know, drug free and all this stuff, and we always kind of just thought, well, of course they're drug free. They're Christian, you know, like they have a good positive message. They're talking to kids. No way could they take stuff, but just because they say they don't take them and just because they're Christian, like, doesn't lead us any further down the road. So I just like to kind of point that out to people, because this is just a thing that goes back and forth. I think what people need to do for themselves is they need to interpret it. What does it mean to them? What does it mean to them? Like, can they get a build like yours? Even if you were on them, can they get a build like yours without taking them? Like, why have a limiting belief? I think, of course, you could.
I'm glad that you said that, because I do think it's dangerous that this was said, because what you're really telling people when you have a megaphone is, hey, he's got this, he's doing this. What you're telling people, because there's people that want to look like me, that aspire to want to look like me. And what you're saying, if you want to look like that, you got to go do that. Or you're saying to other people that aren't willing to go do that, they're saying, well, fuck it, I'm not even going to try. Right? And so I think it's dangerous. I want to set the record straight. I want to expand and tell you why it's possible. But what I wish he had said, and what I wish people would say is, listen, I don't fucking know. I don't know. But number one is, you've already failed by trying to compare yourself to him. Number two, how much you want to bet that you can express your highest and most dominant form no matter what fucking age you are, and you're nowhere close to beginning to do that. And then the thing is, what people, some people don't, is all 9 ancestral tenets shape how we look, feel, and function. And you already know this, if you sleep like shit, you're going to tank your hormones, right? You can reduce your testosterone by these massive percentages. Mm-hmm. If you eat like shit, which most people do, you're going to tank your hormones, right? If you move like shit and don't lift heavy shit, you're going to tank your hormones. And I'll just get to the 4th ancestral tenet. If you protect like shit, if you keep your cell phone next to your dick and balls, just the ionizing radiation alone that people do know about, if you wear polyester clothing, xenoestrogen laden perfumes, drinking out of plastics, X, Y, and Z, you're gonna tank these favorable hormones. These are just 4 of the 9 ancestral tenets, right? Imagine if you
maybe they pick at you just a little bit over a long period of time.
There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The thing is, this is in the literature. I'm trying to not fucking talk about the literature now, right? I learned a lesson, but people can go and look at what our testosterone was 50 years ago, right? The modern day manicured man has a fraction of the testosterone of just the ancestral man from yesterday. You go back 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. You know, can you imagine how much more dominant it was then? And so this is why these principles, these ancestral principles, you do these kind of things, you live this kind of way, and you're going to express something that you didn't know was possible. And guess what? Now it's possible. Now it's possible. And what people need to do is encourage the world. Listen, I don't know what that guy is doing, but what I can tell you about this guy is his physique is the least impressive thing about him. What you need to do is pay attention to him acknowledging that we got a real fucking problem in the world. This guy's also proposing a simple, virtually free roadmap to living a kick-ass fucking life. This guy has some philosophy that's worth listening to.
That's what I saw in the beginning from you, and that's what I liked. And then I had people, when I went to them and I'd say, hey, do you ever check? And they're like, I think that guy's full of shit. He's just trying to sell me on stuff. What are some of your thoughts on that? Why do you think, do you think that's normal, for people to have that reaction to think that might get hooked into something, or that you're going to try to pitch them on something?
You know, I think it's natural because this is the way of the world today. If somebody's trying to sell you something, right? And most people are buying what somebody's trying to sell, and it usually has to do with the illusion of status. I believe that if anybody engages with my content, and the deeper you go, the more convinced that you're going to be that this guy's not trying to sell you something, right? If there's anything I'm selling, it's the path to a kick-ass fucking life. This is all that I want for people, because I went through a living fucking nightmare with my kids on more than one occasion. And I saw this kind of living rescued by kids, right? I've seen so many people transform from a nightmare to an incredible life they're living their dream. This is what people, so I believe that if people give it a chance, right? Just try not to be biased for a second. Give it a little bit of chance. Engage more than just a 15-second clip and see if there's something here. And I believe people will be convinced that there's nothing I'm trying to fucking sell you, right? That what I'm doing is I want to acknowledge there's a problem. I'm also proposing a primal solution to living a kick-ass fucking uninhibited, undomesticated, wild and free, true life. You know, so that's what I would say is I think people that are quick to judge, that also have a limiting belief mindset, they represent the vocal minority. But so I try not to focus too much on them, because the overwhelming majority of followers and people that I see outside are so loyal, are so excited.
I love that.
Are so enthusiastic. And so if we let the 5%, the vocal minority, that for fun I call them subprimals. They're the guy sitting on the couch. They're the guy mindlessly standing in line when there's no need to. If they really ask the questions, if they really engage, I think that they have a lot of joy, a lot of fulfillment, a lot of potential that they can continue to express. But what I know is the overwhelming majority, they're loving it. And it's spreading like wildfire. And I'm having opportunities to sit with you, to connect with you. And we have so many incredible opportunities lined up now. And guess what? If some of the vocal minority guys thought that they were going to get to us, if they know what we have lined up now, here's the thing: you better fucking, at some point, you better deeply engage, because the bill comes due. And when the bill comes due, you're going to realize your life is horrific, or you can take ownership over your life and not just be reactive of what you think this guy is putting out. Engage with the content, and you're going to see liver is king, because it's the biggest fucking lever, and you can become a king too. And hey, did you see that?
Did he walk away with anything?
He wants the liver and the bone marrow.
What if somebody was kind of say something like, I don't think I need to do any of these tenets. Like maybe of course, like everybody needs to sleep, so that's kind of undeniable. But there's like this calorie equation: calories in, calories out. If I just follow that and I weigh my food, and I don't think I need to eat organs. Like there's a lot of bodybuilders, there's a lot of athletes who've had a lot of success, who've done a lot of great things. I don't remember hearing Michael Jordan say that he had, liver. I don't remember, some of these great athletes, Tom Brady, that he's eating heart and different things like that. So what are some of the thoughts on that, like when it comes to that calorie equation?
Yeah. Number one, how much better could these guys be if they embrace nose to tail eating? How much more of their potential could they express? Nobody knows the answer to that. But how much you want to bet that they're performing pretty good, they're looking pretty good, but how much you want to bet that they could be so much better in here and in here? Because you might look great, but how much you want to bet you don't feel great? The bottom line is some of these guys are kicking fucking ass, and let's acknowledge that they at least probably are the anomaly, because I'm just going to get back to some simple facts. 90% of the population has some degree of metabolic derangement. 90%. 80% have another issue in here, living paycheck to paycheck. 70% overweight, half obese, 50% on fucking medicine, 40% again, like the thing is, you want to point to 5 guys that have kicked ass that don't eat organs. Well, guess what? This does not represent you, right? You're hurting. You know that you need to try something. And this is where I would start, is eating nose to tail. You mentioned earlier that you think you made a mistake. Maybe you overstepped, and you said you're going to stop trying to refer to like literature. What did you mean by that? I referred to the radioisotope labeling studies that I've read in the book Cell Therapy, which they reference the studies that have been published in Germany with pretty rigorous standards. And I got so much shit for that. And I said, okay, you know what? I learned a lesson, because this is not what I do, right? I'm not a researcher. I'm not a scientist. I don't understand the papers. This is what Paul Saladino does probably the best job of in the world, you know? And so I should let the Paul Saladinos of the world take on that kind of stuff. What I should say is primitive culture tribes, modern day primitive culture tribes, early ancestral healers believed in the idea of like supports like. That if there's somebody in the tribe that has a failing heart, that the heart of a healthy animal would support and strengthen the heart of that individual, right? And so modern day tribes believe the same thing, and they do the same thing. And so this is something that I think carries weight when you look at somebody who has a thyroid condition, right? You know what they take for the thyroid condition since the late 1800s is desiccated thyroid from an animal, right? There's a lot of historical references where I believe it's the Inuit would take the thyroid of a moose for people that had thyroid conditions. And then this has been proven in the literature, and guess what? Today it's actually returning back to this. So I think what I meant by that is I definitely overstepped my boundaries. I don't understand the radioisotope labeling studies. What I am doing now is I have somebody pulling those studies, to translate those studies, to interpret those studies, and guess what? I'm still not going to talk about it. I'll let somebody else, you know, who's qualified talk about that. But what I do know is that testicle only has the cells in testicle to create testicle tissue. Liver only has liver tissues, liver-specific tissues to create a liver. That's why that's called a liver. That's why that's called a fucking testicle, right? Because they've differentiated to become something, a function of relevance to serve its purpose in the human body. And so science is barely scratching an understanding of what is in these respective tissues.
Yeah, and we know organs have good nutrients, right? They're very nutrient dense, and they could just help the entire body in a lot of ways. And then something like the heart might have cofactors in it that somebody may even prescribe. A lot of times I've heard doctors, cardiologists recommend like CoQ10. I believe there's some CoQ10.
The heart is the known richest source of that.
Yeah, in heart. So I think a lot of what you said made sense, but I think it's not always a great idea to hop back and forth between like beliefs and studies.
100%, and you know, you helped me. Again, I believe I'm really open-minded. You know, how do you get better every single day without people making you better every single day? And so now I really think about this. I definitely don't want to be, you know, getting into the scientific literature, but where else in the body is there myelin sheath? You know, where else in the body is there sphingomyelin? These are brain specific tissues that you will only be able to eat, that you will only be able to access if you eat brain. You're not getting myelin sheath. You're not getting brain-specific tissue unless you eat brain. And the same thing goes with the heart. There's heart-specific tissue. There's, you know, specific tissue. You know, with every organ in the body. Our early ancestors did this. Modern-day primitive culture, they still go for the whole animal. I think if you want to be kicking ass in life, you should be doing this too. You're
a big fan of earning your food, earning the big meals that you have, and then you preach that to the entire family. We saw like some examples of that. We got to sit down and have dinner with you last night, and then you had your kids talking about some of the philosophies that you share with them. What is this idea that you have of doing stuff before you eat and earning your meal?
Yeah, well, this is what I call the simulated successful hunt. And this is because our early ancestors never had the kind of access that we have today for food, to food. We never had this refrigerator right here. We didn't have an app. You know, food was just not a phone call away. We always earned our food. So I say that the simulated successful hunt, it honors the struggle of our early ancestors. And probably more importantly, for most people, it's gonna honor and express your own genetic fitness, right? And you know that muscle is a glycogen sink. And now you do just a max set of push-ups just before your meal. And how much you wanna bet you can almost eat anything you want and still look incredible. And so this is the thing, our early ancestors always had to do it. Modern day primitive culture tribes, they still put forth the effort. They still earn the food before they consume the food. And so I believe that based on that, and I believe when you go through this kind of pain, when you earn something, the food looks better, the food tastes better, the food feels better, you're nourished in so many new ways. And so I think it's really important that we still honor the struggle of our early ancestors so that we too can express our highest and most dominant form.
I think some people have even mentioned things about your family. How does that feel when people have negative comments about your family, or they think that you're mistreating your kids? I think you said they called like child protective services, and they've shown up at your house and stuff like that before.
They did. I'm sure it'll happen again. And so there's no ill feeling for that. You know, more than anything, it's sympathy and sorrow for the person that thinks that's child abuse. Because really what's happening in their household is probably the diametrical opposite. They're going to these fast food places. They're allowing them to play whatever video games they want to do. Their kids don't have to learn anything. Their kids don't learn about earning it and becoming strong, that hard times make strong men. And the reason why I have the sympathy is because they're kids. And these kids are going to grow up to hate themselves. And this is something that's changeable. You know, so more than anything, I have sympathy for people that think that the way that we live is child abuse. And anytime anyone has anything negative to say about my family, I share it openly with them. We usually have a good laugh about it. Because even though I say, yes, I forced them to live this way, last night even at dinner they told you don't force me to do this, right? But I would force them to do that, right? Because if you give someone a pile of liver or a pile of donuts, what are most kids gonna do? You give them a pile of video games or a pile of working out, what are most kids gonna do? You know, you give them the option to go get in 34-degree cold plunge or just remain comfortable inside watching Netflix.
And I think, being a parent myself, that you're entitled to have a particular belief. If you feel that it's necessary to force your kids to do certain things, they're not my kids.
Yeah.
And I don't see any, like, in what you're educating them, you're pushing them towards eating healthy. A lot of parents will push their kids, or you can look at it with the word encouragement. They'll encourage their kids to play sports or to do things. But a lot of times, I mean, that is the hardest line to walk, is with your kids and how much you should force them to do stuff.
Well, you know what? I know that we talked about this earlier. I have one fucking job to do as a dad, to affirm them with the depth of challenge so that they come to believe in themselves, right? To affirm them with the depth of challenge, worth, and potential. That one day they believe in themselves, and that so they too have leadership and ownership to create the exact life they want to live in. And so while they might hate me, they're gonna love the life that they create and shape. And how much you wanna bet at some point, if they hate me, they forgive me, and they put their arms around me, you know, because we got this job to do. This job is not easy. This is the way that our early ancestors have lived, the way that primitive culture tribes still live today, you know, and so we got a job to do, and I know people are gonna be pushing back on it, and this is okay, this is natural. I'm gonna read the comments to them, and it's great that Liver Queen just thinks they're hilarious. The boys think they're hilarious because one of the accusations is that I made them drink blood with a Maasai. And then they're gonna tell you, hey, listen, we wanted to drink blood with the Maasai because we're in Africa, and when are we gonna have the chance to drink blood with the Maasai ever again? So if CPS comes, you know, she talks to them and she figures out in about 5 seconds, I got nothing here. I got nothing here. These kids are happy. These kids, even though I will take the credit, do I force? Yes. But they're gonna tell you that they choose. And they know the benefits of doing this. And they know the benefits of seizing this once in a lifetime opportunity. And we come back from these adventures with this massive expansion of the proportion of our living, what we've shared together and what we get to carry forward. And I've said this before, but you never shrink back to that original size when you live like that. And so I'll take credit. I'm like, yeah, I forced them to live that way. But they're also going to take credit. Maybe I should give them more credit that they also choose to live this way.
Where should someone get started? I know you mentioned liver many times. What are a couple other steps that would have someone going down the right path? And then where do they get this stuff, and how do they go down the right path?
Yeah. Step 1, start with liver. Step 2, liver. with all seriousness, you know, I talk about liver and go lift heavy shit. Learn the Barbarian, go train for the Barbarian, go complete the Barbarian.
Liver King, what is Barbarian?
Barbarian is the hardest thing that most people will ever do in their lives. I created this workout as a rite of passage so that people could cross this chasm, so that they would know what they thought was impossible is actually something that they can do. And then they can believe in themselves, and then once again they can point that process at anything and everything in all capacities. Barbarian is 70-pound kettlebells. It's 70 pounds in a backpack. It's 120 pounds on top of a 65-pound sled, and it's 20-pound ankle weights for 1 mile. You go do Barbarian, and that fucking guy inside of you, that primal guy, that wild guy will live during that whole Barbarian. And then after a while, your predecessor will come back and you'll say, you know how great to feel, how great it felt to be that wild, that free, that authentic. I want that guy to come out more. But most people are changed forever when they do Barbarian. So I know if people can learn what the Barbarian workout is, if they can train for the Barbarian workout, if they can accomplish the Barbarian workout, they've crossed this chasm and they believe in themselves so much more than what they even thought was possible, and that carries over to every capacity in life. So I'll tell you just for a second about the Super Barbarian, because almost nobody knows about the Super Barbarian. The Super Barbarian is something that the guys do in one of my companies. It's called Tip of the Spear. And it's one of the hardest, it's the hardest thing. If you've done Barbarian, this is the one up, right? So now you take 50% of your body weight, and you're about 235, right? So you take 50% of your body weight as kettlebells. So now you got 120 pound kettlebells, 117.5, let's say 120 pound kettlebells, right? Remember, regular Barbarian is 70. So now you got 120 pound kettlebells. You got 235 pounds on top of the sled. You got 117.5 pounds in your fucking backpack, still 20 pound ankle weights, still 1 mile. And so this can take more than 24 hours to complete the Super Barbarian. This is something that you measure not even in a full step. Some of your stents forward are gonna be in just a fraction of a step.
How long does it take?
Well, if you've never done Super Barbarian, you don't talk about Super Barbarian, the experience. You can talk about the rules, you can talk about the implements. It's a relative weight workout that's probably a lot more fair than Barbarian, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Start with Barbarian, train for Barbarian, learn what you're capable of, and then do it again. Let this be your renewal for your rite of passage, a reminder of what you come from. And then if you want a deeper challenge, for people that have already really challenged themselves, that say, oh, Barbarian's not going to be that hard for me. You want something that I guarantee you is going to be absolutely crushing. This is Super Barbarian. And in terms of people that have done it, there's 3 people that have done it. And I couldn't be more proud to say that the person that did it first, Liver Queen. Liver Queen's the first person to do it. Liver King is the second. And I can say this, that Michael Inyang is the third. And so we're about to have some more, but here's what ends up happening. People start training for it, and invariably, this is a tough thing to train for. Most people end up getting hurt as they train for it. So now imagine, you gotta be completely healthy. You gotta be able to train for it, remain healthy, and then you gotta go off and do it. This is not an easy task. You're able to complete Super Barbarian, and I'll tell you right now, you can, I would hire you for anything. It tells me everything I need to know. So this is ancestral tenet 3, which is move, sleep, eat, move. But every day, if you tune into the stories, you're gonna see what we do every day. Start with liver, go lift heavy shit, stack the sun and the earth. You do those 4 things, and you're gonna be so much further along, and you're gonna feel so goddamn good that you're gonna wanna learn about all 9 ancestral tenets. And you can learn about all 9 ancestral tenets. There's a free ebook that I wrote. It's at liverking.com. There's an ebook there that gives you a guide to expanding upon all 9 ancestral tenets. It's just a guidebook. You can read it in a day, in an hour or so. And so the biggest thing that people need to remember is that people are really hurting today. Most people know that they're really hurting today. Most people know that they're meant for more. They don't know how to achieve more. And so what I'm doing now as the CEO of the Ancestral Lifestyle is to model, teach, and preach this way, so that people no longer have to suffer, so that we can express our highest and most dominant form. It's accessible to everybody, and it's something that if you start this today, this will change your life tomorrow.
Eating this way and eating like a king, do you have a poop story? Because all this stuff goes in, there's gotta be something that goes out.
Have you heard the poop story?
I don't think so.
There's a legitimate poop story.
Oh, good.
I did a reel on the poop story. I hope somebody wants to, if they really want to know, they should search it up on Instagram, because it's great. I take 1 royal shit a day. I don't eat fiber. Right. I get a small amount of fiber. What I have is probably a 5-pound shit every morning at 6:30. It comes out like a fucking baby, all crispy, right? I don't have to wipe. Do I wipe? I fucking check it. I still check it. I'm like, holy shit, that was clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle.
His poops are tapered.
It's a royal fucking shit. You should watch the video, because there's a great ending to it. I don't want to ruin it right here. You should watch. It's called The Royal Shit Show. It's called The Royal Shit Show. So that's what I do. I do 1. I'm not going to waste my time going back to the bathroom. I don't have to. I do 1 royal shit show in the morning. And I think when most people eliminate some of that unnecessary roughage in their diet, I think they're going to see the same thing.
And I think, if people want to try to find out more information about like cholesterol, how that plays into all this, and you hear people talk about like colon cancer, it's probably just best to check out Paul Saladino's stuff, right?
That's what I do. I refer them all to the Carnivore MD, Paul Saladino. He has all of the data. And what's great is he'll give you the first 30 seconds. Here's the summary that you need to know. And then if you really want to know more,
You can dive in.
and he's going to dive in for you. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great resource.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. That was fantastic. I'm super excited to get some food and to throw down and to eat whatever is over there. That looks amazing. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Catch you guys later.
Liver King out.